Okay. Hello, Vilas. Thank you for your time. Everyone listening, Vilas has been teaching me for about 1.5 years in relation to the teachings of the Buddha and also other topics in my life. And yeah, it's been really so helpful. And I wanted to do this interview with Vilas. And we had a couple of topics to discuss. One of them is common misconceptions about the teachings of the Buddha. So sometimes people think teach that there is no self, or sometimes people think that if you do this practice, you annihilate into some kind of non-existence. And then some other topics are you call yourself anagarika, which means homelessness. We're going to talk about it in a bit, and we're going to talk also what it means in relation to gender and how gender works in teachings of the Buddha. And we're going to talk about compatibility of this practice with versus Christianity. So if you're a Christian and there's also Buddhism, how does that work? Is that those questions and perhaps other things? But thank you. Perhaps to start with, perhaps you can say a bit about your own background in how you got to meditation and also your title, Anagarika.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, and very nice questions. So let me start saying that what is Buddha teaching and what is Buddhism? So let's start with that. Buddha teaching is just the teaching of what is nature of things, irrespective of who stays, who doesn't stay, whether we believe something, doesn't believe something. When we say Buddhism, it becomes like a religion or a norm or a custom or a tradition or something like that. And now it forms one kind of religion. That means it has its own uh, dogmas and its own faith systems and all that. So basically, when I started in the year 2000. It was like a 24 years back with Dalai Lama teaching. So because I got really impressed by Dalai Lama speeches and his scientific view of scientific thoughts, and also a lot of scientists getting associated with the Dalai Lama. So I stayed on that tradition of the Tibetan practices for 10 years. And then I was feeling that there should be something more to this. And then I started on the Theravada, which is the Burmese or the Sri Lankan or the Thai traditions. And then I got introduced to the Burmese tradition through the Goenka technique, and I was working up for 3 years. And then I thought that why don't I do it myself by looking at the scriptures? So in the Buddha Dhamma or the Buddha teachings, you have three. One is the Sutta, which is the discourses given by the Buddha. One is the Vinaya, which is the discipline, and another one is Abhidhamma, which is higher knowledge. So I was more interested in the Sutta, which is the discourses, rather than the other two, because the Vinaya is for the monks, and I was not that keen on Abhidhamma because it's very detailed and this looks like mathematics. So I thought, let me first graduate into this, and then we will see that later. So this is my brief about it. And then while I was doing this, so then I got an opportunity to go and meet a monk in Sri Lanka, because there was a online discussions and there were videos happening. And then one monk, I used to email him, and he used to write back. So he got interested in trying to know what I really do. So I flew to Sri Lanka, and then I met that monk. And then we had a very good discussion. And in the process, I met another monk in Anuradhapura, and he was impressed with the knowledge what I have. And in his opinion, he thought that I might be a stream entry or a sotapanna from the birth. because he felt that so much of knowledge cannot be acquired like by reading. So you should have something which was earlier there. And then I came back and I was trying to see, is there anything in the sutta which can tell me for myself that I'm a Sotapanna or the stream enterer, or should I go by what he says? And I found out that in the sutta itself it is there. So I became more confident. It really helped me to remove this doubt whether I'm a Sotapanna or not, or the stream entry or not. So this is one major thing what I can say for anyone in the Dhamma or in the Buddha Dhamma has in the teaching, is that we don't have to ask anyone whether I'm achieved this or achieved that. There is suttas, there is a discourses which tells you exactly where you are. If you have accomplished all of this, it's like a question and answers. You tick off, okay, this I have got, and this I have got, and this I have got, and that's it. So then you know you're past the exam. So you don't have to go and ask anyone because it's self-explanatory. And second thing is that what's a Dhamma? Dhamma as in the thing or an object and the nature of that object. Anything in this nature is arising and ceasing. If you build something, it's going to get destroyed or cease to exist. So any product, any services, any sensual thing we do, they exist for a while and they go away. Either we lose interest over it, or just like you take any product, right from iPhone 1 to now today iPhone 16, you would have been having 16 model if people were happy with 1. That means you would have dissatisfaction all the time because it disintegrates. So whatever integrated gets disintegrated. And this body also is integrating and disintegrating. And that is called Dhamma, meaning the nature. So Buddha talks about nature of things rather than a religion. That's the starking difference between a religious identity or a norm versus what's the nature of things. So the nature of things, if you create something, it gets destroyed. If you're born, you die. If a product is born, the product goes end of life or shelved out. Be it the car, be it the bus, be it the airplane, be it whatever. Doesn't matter. Be it the city, be it whatever. If you create something, it doesn't stay. So it goes away. So this is what I could understand for myself. So then if you were to understand this much, then there's another level in the Buddha discourses where you can see that, this, if I get it, I get at this level. So then I can tick off, okay, this I know, and this I know, and this I know, something like that. So that's all about this. And then coming to your question on anagarika, that's an interesting topic. It's because when I was in Sri Lanka, another monk, through my friend, informed me that there are a lot of Sri Lankans who are well versed in Dhamma, but they are staying overseas, like in Australia, New Zealand, some part of Europe, as in London, majority them are in London. So then they don't understand Sinhalese. They require someone who can exactly explain the Pali words into English. And he felt that my English is pretty good, and and my Pali is also good. So he requested me that, why don't you do like this? And I met another friend in Australia, and then he suggested me, and he was a Sri Lankan, and he suggested me, you know what, I'll give you one suggestion. Sri Lankans don't really look at your name unless it is Thero or something like that. So it would be, and you can't call yourself as a Bhante or a Thero because that's reserved for a monk. So why don't you put your name Anagarika? So then I put Anagarika and everybody accepted to that. Now the question comes, what's Anagarika? The Pali word agara means house or a home. Anagara means homeless. What it really means, that means one who has understood that the consciousness which has taken this house is not going to exist for long. When the time comes, the consciousness has to give up this house. Okay. In the same way, if I'm staying in this house is to be given up. If I'm having a responsibility of the wife and son and things like that, I have to give it up one day, because that's not true. So basically, if you put your name Anagarika, what it resonates in you is you're literally homeless. Okay, that means you're planning to move from home to homelessness in your mind. You don't have to physically do something, but you can do it in the mind, because mind is where everything is happening. The attachment is happening in the mind. So the detachment also should happen in the mind, nothing to do with physical. I don't have to wear a robe and become homeless. I can do it in the mind. I can cleanse the mind so that it becomes homeless. So that basically started from 2018 onwards. Now it is 6 years of journey as an anagarika. It's really helped me in that, making this thing possible, that I can really see the change from what I used to do while on the Buddha Dhamma also, and what I started doing after I was asked to put on anagarika. It really helped me to let go of that possession. So in the Dhamma, if somebody lets go of the possession as in liking and disliking, it reduces to an extent that you don't care much. Then you come into the stage called as Sakadagami, or once returner. Why? Because you don't have so much of holding on to things. And you can see it for yourself. And there are a lot of discourses which talk about that, and you can verify and see whether you can do something like that. So being an anagarika has helped me to see whether I'm a sotapanna or the stream entry, sakadagami, whether I'm a once returner. And if I'm an anagami, this is non-returner. That means you don't basically have the liking as such for sensual things, and disliking if the sensual thing doesn't come into existence. So there's no hatredness, there's no ill will towards something, nor there is something where I get sensually attached to it. If that's true, then you can see that you already reached the anagami, which is anagami. Agami is one who comes. Anagami is one who doesn't come to the womb existence. So in that way, you can really see what's happening within you.
Thank you very much for that answer. And I think you also already went into some of I think the question was about the Dhamma. You said the Buddha thought about nature. And I think that's interesting, because also you said there was this whole teaching of transmigration, of rebirth. And if you were to ask all the people, they would say, "Oh, that sounds like religion, typical religion." Um, but it was explained that it's really the nature of things. And so, if we can go into perhaps the compatibility, you're, for instance, a Christian or you're a Hindu, and you hear this, I think in Christianity there's also the story of heaven, hell, same thing with Hindu. So would this then just be a more detailed explanation, or do you think it's something that's different that's being described, or is it basically the same? It's basically getting at the same thing.
Okay, that's a nice one. So before we begin there, we need to understand self and no self. What's self? What do you mean by self? Myself. What does that mean? So what happens here is that when you're born, you're given a name. And when people call your name, you become you there. So I become I, you become you. So when I keep on saying I and you and I and you and I and you, the consciousness picks up that and then makes it as mine. like somebody being there, even though nobody being there, but it gives you a self view that I am there. So I am seeing, I'm hearing, I'm tasting, I'm touching, smelling, and then thinking. On a conventional, to talk to Dardan, I need to say, I am seeing, let's say, a plant in your house. I'm seeing a tree behind your glass window. But there is no eye to see there. Every eyes are seeing that. But still I can use my eyes are seeing. Now I'll say I'm seeing. So what Buddha was asking is that, do you see that you can control what you are seeing and hearing and tasting and touching and smelling and thinking? Can you control it? Can you make what you want happen? That is, what you want to see, only that is seen. And what you want to hear is only heard. What you want to taste is only tasted. But you will see that you will get all the three varieties. You will get what you like, you get what you don't like, and you also get neutral, which is neither liking nor disliking. So that means you don't have a choice. You can't choose something. It just comes. So he used the word anatta. Atta means self. But what happened here is that Atta actually transforms to a personality or personal, but then in the translation, you can make it a self. And when you call it as a self, and it comes to an understanding that there's an Atma, like a soul, right? So then the question comes, did Buddha talk about no soul? Because soul will go to heaven and soul will go to hell. So if you were to look at all the religions, they talk about heaven and hell. That means somebody should be going to heaven, right? And that somebody is me. Who else will go to hell, or who else will go to heaven? So if you say that there's no one there, it looks absurd. Actually, then who is doing it is a question. And if there is a pain, who is getting the pain? It's I who am suffering the pain. If I'm feeling happy, who is feeling happy? This I am, which is feeling happy. So it becomes a very tricky situation. So Buddha never answered anyone when asked, do you believe in soul? He never said anything. Then they came and asked him, that means you don't believe in any soul. He didn't say anything. Because soul and no soul only comes due to condition. If there's no condition, there's nothing which is coming. If there is condition, then it comes. So he looked at the 12-link formula, which is, if this being, this comes to be. With the arising of this arises. This not being, this doesn't come to be. With the cessation of this ceases. So he taught that. And then he gave an illustration of a 12-link formula, which is popularly called as Paticca Samutpada. So if you were to take the Buddha teaching, it is the 12 links. If this is there, this is going to be there. If that is not there, this is not going to happen. So the soul theory came into existence in all religions because they thought that there should be something which cannot be destroyed. And the annihilationists came of something that since we can't see a soul departing away at death, we don't see anything standing up and saying, hey, you know what, goodbye, I'm leaving. So after the body is burned, the soul is also gone. So that becomes annihilation. And this side is that there's a transmigration and there's going to another body or reincarnation or reappearance. And then we can talk about rebirth and all of that. So now you have two views. One view is that nothing comes and nothing goes, and another view is that the same thing comes and same thing goes. Okay? Because that's how we are seeing. So then the question comes, what's my past experience? Like somebody says that you've been a Sotapanna from the birth, or the stream enter from birth. That means I should have had a last life. If I had a last life, irrespective of what I was called in that life, I'm still the same soul, which is transmigrating as Vilas today. So I can't go by the annihilationist theory that at death and gone. So now I have to come to this portion of it. Then the question comes, if I could choose to be a Sotapanna, or if I became a Sotapanna, it took me so long to realize that I'm a Sotapanna? How and why? So then in the religion, these are answered by the God. God will provide you with opportunity. And then when the opportunity arises, it reveals itself to you. So the soul cannot choose. It's a God who chooses to make known to the soul. Soul is ignorant. The God is knowledgeable. So when we believe in God, the knowledge arrives. If we don't believe in God, no knowledge will arise. So as a human, I don't have knowledge. Only with the blessing of the God or or a messenger of the God, then I am awakened to what I should be knowing. So the messenger can be Jesus, can be Muhammad, can be this, can be that, based upon that religion. So there's a faith system that there should be a messenger, there should be an angel, there should be someone sent by the God, because humans, their mind, they cannot know who they are. There should be something that should be said. Just like as soon as I'm born, I'm called Vilas, and I never knew I'm Vilas, but after a while, I came to know I'm Vilas. In the same way, if a God wanting me to be understood that His presence, then He will send me a messenger in the form of another human being, in the form of some kind of a dream, or some kind of a messenger arriving from the heaven or from somewhere, and then saying that, hey, Vilas, get up. I'm so and so, and I would like to tell you what you're supposed to do. So the purpose of life is not in my control, not in the soul's control. The purpose of life is in the control of the God. I'm the servant of the God. But for me to serve, the messenger should tell me how I should serve God. So this is the way every religion evolves. Can be Hinduism, can be Hebrew, can be Christianity, can be Islam, can be any religion. What the name? That's how that would make sense, because we can see by ourselves we are not aware. So somebody has to make us aware. So if I don't agree with the annihilationist view, that means in my previous life I was a Buddhist, and hence it is continued. So God made it available for me at this point in time, which it was never there earlier. So I've been striving, but couldn't get it. So God made it happen. Now, can I disprove it? It's pretty difficult because it makes sense that way. So to answer to both of them, Buddha said, it's based upon the law of conditionality, nothing to do with God being there or not being there. It's not being soul being there or not being there. So these two extremes are wrong views, that you take God and soul on one side and you remove the God and soul on the other side. So if the condition matches, it just comes. Not by chance, because the condition is matched. Now, what are these conditions? These are impressions. So if there is a stronger impression in my past life, and that would encourage it to come when the right opportunity comes, I can call God, help me in doing that, because I have no idea how it happened, how it transformed. Like, I might be drinking the last night, and then I wake up. I just waken to the reality. Say, oh my God, what I was doing, I was drinking, horrible thing. And the next time my friend asks me, let's go for a drink, I just say, you know what? I've stopped it. Says, gone crazy? Are you sure? Say, yes, I stopped it. Then he's shocked. What happened? I say, God came and spoke to me and he said, no more drinking. Can happen. So that is termed as miracle because I was drinking every day at least one peg of scotch minimum. And now he is the same person, a very next day, don't feel like drinking. In fact, I start donating of my scotch and so many different kind of vodkas and rum and gin and so many things I bought for many dollars. But now I don't find anything in that. In fact, I tell my friend, I have an entire bar. You want to take the whole bar with you, you can take it. And my friend is shell shocked with this. Same thing might be with clothing. Same thing might be with the house or any possession because it didn't make sense. So that's a transformation. So since I don't know how it came, I have to believe in God. But in Buddha Dhamma, you can see that happened because of law of conditionality, nothing to do with God giving you something at that point in time. Because the condition didn't match, so it ended. That is the karma or the deed of that ended. And when that ends, a new deed will start. So what you had practiced in your past experience came up now. So then it seems as though you have decided to be a noble person. Yes, to an extent we can say yes, because the condition is matched. So now the objective is you do good deeds, you get good results. You do bad deeds, you get bad results. Good deeds means that you have a volition, you have a intent to do good deeds. Now that you've understood that if I do good, the condition will always be good. If I do bad, the condition is always going to be bad. Because this being, this comes to be. With the arising of this, this arises. That means no matter what comes, what doesn't come, if you're doing good deeds, you're going to be good all the time. There's no way you can have something which anything bad can happen. But if I'm doing bad things and I expect good results, that's not going to happen. And if I'm doing good things, no bad thing can happen because the condition doesn't match. So this is the difference between the other faith systems or religion versus the Buddha. Buddha has no religion as such. It's just pure and scientific, if you can use the word scientific, because it can be proven. If you're good, you get good. If you're bad, you get bad. Simple as that. It's just nothing that God is punishing you for sins and then God is appreciating you for doing good. No. You are punishing yourself because the condition doesn't match for you to enjoy what you wanted to enjoy. And then if you're doing good, nothing in this world can make you suffer because there's no condition for you to suffer. So this is how heaven and hell can be seen in Buddha Dhamma as opposed to a real heaven and hell, which is taken by one on the Saturn and another one by the saint.
Thank you for that answer, really comprehensive, and also goes into the misconceptions about materialism versus annihilationism. And basically, you're saying that these are misconceptions that arise dependent upon not understanding, dependent arising how things emerge, dependent on conditions. And yeah, that's also. I think I also studied with teacher Lee Brassington. He also says that Buddha basically taught conditions and teaching Four Noble Truths of stress, and then the condition for that, and all we did was really to teach the way to
remove that. So if you take the Four Noble Truths in taking this context, if you do good versus doing bad, are you doing bad versus doing good? That adds stress. Because I'm doing bad, not knowing I'm doing bad, but I want to do something to make it good. the result turn good. It's never going to happen unless the condition matches. Now, that's dukkha, because I can use it a word stress or pain or suffering or whatever in English, but basically that's what I'm taking. Why am I doing it? Because I'm craving for that happiness. It just came some time ago and I don't know where it left. Let's take an example. So let's say I go to the US and then I go to one particular place. So let's say Alaska, and I liked it and I want to be there, but there's no condition that's matching. But I want to be there because I'm craving for that experience again. It might not happen, but I have to put in stress to get my eyes seeing Alaska, and the ears hearing about Alaska, and the nose smelling of the Alaska, and the tongue tasting the food in Alaska, the body being there in Alaska, and the mind enjoying those objects. That's the stress. That's a huge stress. Can call it as a pain to be taken. No pain, no gain. So now I need a visa. Not only just by having visa, it's not going to work out. I need to buy a flight ticket. Just by paying for the flight ticket doesn't really matter. I need to really fly there. Just by flying there is not going to do anything. And then I need to have a hotel. Just by booking a hotel is not going to do anything. I need to have a transport. And just by having a transport is not going to do something. The weather should be good. If the weather doesn't make good, then it doesn't matter. So actually, I'm seeing one of the after the condition has to match. So the visa has to be there for me to book the flight ticket. The flight ticket, for that I require money. If I don't have money, I can't book the flight ticket. Then I need a hotel. Then I need to have money to pay the hotel. Then I need to have the ground transport. Of all the things, I need to have the weather holding by. And then my vacation or a holiday is a real holiday. Otherwise, it's a pain. So that's the stress I'm carrying for craving. Just the craving to see, craving to hear, craving to taste, craving to smell, craving to touch, and craving to think. What if I just give up that? Just the craving. Then the stress is gone. So I have unbound something which was getting winded and winded and winded and winded, and now I just let go. So the wires just open up. Now I can see the Eight Noble Truth. Sorry, the Noble Eightfold Path. I change my view into a proper view, letting go of craving. That's it, nothing else. Then I made a right or a proper wish or a proper determination. There's no point in going through senses. Doesn't make sense. Because even if everything works, in the end, I'd only take the picture, which is a dead image anyway. So what's the point? What's the difference between the last time I saw Alaska and this time I'm seeing Alaska? What's the point in having last time I had San Francisco and this time I'm seeing San Francisco? Last time I had Hollywood and this time I had Hollywood. Doesn't matter. The same street, maybe a different people, but basically it doesn't make any sense. When I see, oh my God, that's stupid. So then I change those two so that my wisdom faculty is opened up, and then I can see the other three, which is the moral values. So I don't do something which creates me a problem by the body. I don't do something which will bring problem through my speech, and I will not take some job which brings me harm. So this three becomes the seal or the morality aspect. And then that helps me in getting into samadhi, which is nothing but a proper being in a particular state. The sama adi, sama means equal and adi means state. staying. So when you say samadhi, the word, it means that you can stay in a particular state for a long time without mind getting fluctuating into something else. So there's a proper energy exertion that needs to be done so that I can stay in a particular state. And then to do that, I need to have proper awareness. So if I have this eightfold path, and I'm done. So Buddha brought this up in a very nice way to see what is your suffering. Why are you suffering? You're suffering because you want something to happen now, which is condition based. So you can't condition or which is already conditioned. Because how the climate is going to be there in Alaska, you can't do anything. And how it's going to be in Amsterdam or in some other place where I want to visit can be anything. It might be snowing all of a sudden. But I brought my huge camera to take some nice pictures, or it might be cloudy. Couldn't do anything. So then I can curse. If I keep cursing on that, that doesn't change the cloud to go away. So that means nothing is in my control. So hence there's no self. There's nothing called self. So why am I blasting myself then? It's because of craving. Why did I crave? Because I want that enjoyment, that sensual enjoyment. So can I let go of the sensual enjoyment? Great, I can do it. When I do it, you're released. So that becomes Four Noble Truths.
Thank you. Yeah, so no purpose for craving, and instead replacing it with wisdom and ethics based on that wisdom, and then you can get into pleasant mental state, meditation, and
Yep.
Even higher states of consciousness known as jhanas that you were described also with the samadhi.
Yeah.
Perhaps can you say something about like these meditative states
Yes.
at the end of the Noble Eightfold Path?
Yes. So what happens here is this way. The word meditation is a very funny word, but there's no other word in English to take. So we'll take the Pali word jhana, on which everything has been built up in different countries. So what is jhana in Pali? In Indian language became dhyana, Dhyana, dhyana. And when it went into China, it became Chan. And when it went to Japan, it became Zen. And in many other countries, it changed, or in many religions, it changed to various things. So, what's about meditation? You are meditating anyway, all the time, on something. Otherwise, you can't really get anything at all. So even to get a product or a service or doing something, even what you're asking me question and what I'm answering to you should have some kind of meditation. Otherwise, my mind will not be in a state to answer. So that state is called as absent-mindedism. That means it cannot know where it is. It can't say anything in a proper way, cannot understand. So if something could be understood, anyone requires a level of meditation in the first place. Now, this we can call it as a worldly thing to do. But what is out of the world is that beyond the senses, not having sensual state of mind. That means the mind sticking to the senses and believing that's what it is. So going away from the senses gives this mind to go on a higher than the senses. Where senses by itself has enjoyment, this enjoyment far exceeds the sense. Okay, so there are 9 of them. And if you are on the first of them, is simple, is that you, instead of thinking, or I, instead of thinking about worldly objects, now take something like the breath to analyze what is the breath. In the worldly things, the breath is forgotten. It's given. It's taken as an assumed state. So that's the first thing. Whereas in this, you become aware of the breath as an observer. In this worldly thing, you cannot observe the breath because you're observing something else. As here, you take the breath as an object. So becomes sabitaka savichara. That means you make a debate on how to watch the breath and what is there in the breath, and then you think it over. Like you think it over, you debate on the product, or you debate on the object, and then make it up. Oh, this is this object, and then you start thinking on that object. In the same way, here you're thinking on the breath, and you're debating over what this breath is all about. So what happens here is that the mind, which has consciousness, which was unconscious, suddenly gets conscious about its own existence. So you get aware, and when it gets aware, it basically throws out joy. So there is an experience of joy. Now, in the senses, there is joy when you get it, but then it's gone. Like I get a chocolate and then I eat it and that's it. Oh, I take a plane and get down and that's it. I go to the hotel and I'm in the hotel and that's it. I go to the some theater and I just see something and that's it. I sit in the car, I get out of the car and that's it. But here, you can repeat it again and again and again and again and again and again and again without a break. Because it's there. It's not conditioned by the object being there or not being there. Because breath is always going to be there. That makes total difference. One. So that is called as the first meditative absorption. So the mind is absorbed into looking at, this is the breath. I never knew it. And it's neutral. It doesn't give me anything called as craving for it, nor it's giving me anything to hate it. So there's nothing to hate in a breath. There's nothing to like in a breath. It's just a breath. And breath is important. Why? Because as long as we are breathing, so long is our life going away. That's a nice thing. So there's a joy. The second absorption is the joy. Our third absorption is when you let go of the body. This is something amazing. There's no body. Wow, such a light feeling. So there is pleasure or happiness. And in the fourth one, you get light, because chitta in Pali is just light. Just light, just like the sun, just light. So that's a fourth one. And when you're in that, you can go into the infinite space, because there's no body anyway. And there's neither happiness nor unhappiness. There's neither body pain nor body pleasure. You've given up all the four. So there's no mental pain and mental pleasure. There's no bodily pain and bodily pleasure. So you've released yourself, and then it enters into the space. And after a while, you get conscious of everything, because you are that consciousness. So there's nothing else to be unconscious about. So out of the four things, what I spoke about, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, and collective conscious or supreme conscious, you get into that supreme conscious experience where you get conscious of every damn state. And then you go next level is it's a nothingness, no thing being there in any one of the senses. Just comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. And then you cease the consciousness. The consciousness ceases without perception. So if there is a perception, then it wakes up. If there's no perception, there's no need to wake up. So this is called as neither perception nor non-perception. That's the eighth one. And then what Buddha did is to shut it off, switch off, which is no perception, no feeling. So you get into Nirodha. It doesn't arise. Just stop. So this 9 is far, far, far superior than the worldly sensual objects, because objects comes, object goes. Cannot be repeated. Like I went last time to Alaska, but when I come back to the hotel, that day is gone. One day gone. Then the second day in Alaska, the third day in Alaska, then I had to fly back from Anchorage to some other place, and then from there to Bangalore. So I need to wait for the next vacation to enter into Alaska, which is pain, basically. I'm struggling to go back to that place. And even then, I might not be interested this time because I've seen Alaska. So it doesn't impress me any longer. So I need to select another place and another place and another country. I'm seeing entire US. I don't feel any longer going good to US, and then I need to go to Australia or to New Zealand and this country, that country. Let's see, I've seen all the countries in the globe. I have no idea where else to go. It's boring now. But here, there's no boredom. It's absolutely fantastic. Much, much, much higher than seeing the entire globe 100 times. And this is condition based. This, I require money, I require visas, I require hotel reservations and this and that and the climate and whatnot. Here, there's nothing. That's your usual state of your mind. So which is better? This is better, this is better. This is better. That's how a person lets go of the sensuality and comes towards this. So these are the 9 states which can be experienced. And it's not too difficult. Only thing is that we need to make the mind get into one or two or whichever object and sticks to that object. Can be breath, can be the elements, can be the 6 senses. They take whichever you want and then stick to that. Don't change the object like we do it in the sensual world. We change the object. Here, there's no need to change the object. You just be on that object. It'll do for itself. You don't have to do anything in particular, like booking a ticket and booking this and doing that and doing that and doing that and doing that. Nothing. Just have to sit comfortably. Just be aware of the breath coming in your nostrils. That's the only thing you need to do. The remaining it does by itself. Now we might ask a question, why doesn't it work for everyone? Because there are 10 immoral deeds. And in that, if some immoral deeds are still there, it wouldn't work. And there is hindrances. If we don't address hindrances, it doesn't work. There's only 2 things that needs to be done for any person to get into all the 9 of them. And that's it. So I don't require a visa. I don't require anything, any approval or this or that, money or that, whatever it is required. Doesn't matter. I can be happy doing my own thing, sitting at my own place. That's it.
That's a really wonderful answer. We also discussed another topic, that of gender. Perhaps it's slightly different. Perhaps it also relates to what we've talked about.
Gender.
Yeah.
As in as in female and male.
Yeah, there's the student chat lighting. We have, I think, students who are interested in this topic, and I think can also perhaps show a bit of how the Dhamma might explain some things in a different way from how you would get it taught at university or yeah. So I'm not sure if that is something that also is uh, part of the Buddha teachings or can be explained using those teachings or
Yeah, it can be done. It's not a big deal. So let's say, let's take somebody comes in the LGBTQ category, okay, as an example. What we're talking is on the physical and the psychological existence, right? So there's a psychological way of seeing at the person and the physical changes in the person, meaning his or her attitude. And then and that person says, I'm a queer, I'm a lesbian, I'm a, whatever that is. So it's about adjusting to that person. So that person has to adjust to the society and the society adjusting to that person. But in the Buddha Dhamma, it's irrelevant in terms of the body itself and the psychological thing. Okay, it's just pure consciousness. It's got nothing to do with gender. It's nothing to do with gender equality or gender inequality. It's got nothing to do with a male being there or a female being there. There's nothing to do with LGBTQ or whatever we can now come up with. So, anyone whose mind is pure, having any kind of physical deformities or different kind of gender, can attain exactly the same level as a normal individual would have done. Because it's about purifying the mind, not about purifying or looking different in terms of the body or the psychology. Yeah. So then, what is psyche? Psyche means mind. Psychology also talks about mind. What's the difference? The difference here is that in psychology, there's a physiological aspect to it, which we can call it as a psychosomatic. Somata is in the body and the psycho being the mind. So there's a physiological as in the body changes and the hormonal effect, and then its its effect on the mind or the psyche of the individual, and then he or she might do in a particular way. If he or she can be, or he, she, or whoever can be made to realize that you can exist whatever you are, but also elevate your mind beyond that, beyond the physical, physiological, psychological existence. And then he or she can, or any other gender, can attain all the jhanas, what we just now spoke about. It's got nothing to do with what they are and what they are affiliated with. So, Buddha teaching is general neutral, actually, because he only talks about how condition comes to be. He doesn't talk about anything like in this gender can it be done, in that gender can it be done, or something like that. So there's no discrimination at all in the Buddha Dhamma.
yeah, that's a really good point. That it sort of transcends these categories depending on the intentions and the practice leading to the meditation.
Yeah. So anybody can meditate as long as they have purity of thoughts and actions. It doesn't matter what they represent in the worldly context, because it's totally out of the world. So world as in the senses, and the out of the world is beyond the senses. So what I make sense in one side might not make any sense on the other side. So when we come to the other side, what was making sense here no longer makes any sense. It means if I say I am an asexual, I don't feel sexual at all with anyone, doesn't matter. I'm very sexual, it really doesn't matter, because being sexual is as same as being asexual. Okay, I'm interested in a female. No, I'm not interested in female. It doesn't matter. No, I'm interested in the male. I'm not interested in male. It doesn't matter, because as the nature of the reality, which is just the light, it neither likes anything or dislikes anything. So how does it matter whether somebody likes this body of this color and this shape, or doesn't like something of this body and this shape? In fact, that is the what I can say, defilements of the mind rather than how actually it is. So the more we get into the Dhamma and the more we get into the jhana, you see that you don't require anything to be affiliated sexually, either as asexual or bisexual or this sexual or that sexual. It doesn't matter what sexual I am.
Like it doesn't like or dislike. It's
Exactly. Just like exactly, just like you're having a switch and a light, and if you have let's say a tube light or any kind of the fluorescent light, it just lights your room. It doesn't matter if it's a male, it doesn't matter it's a female, it doesn't matter any other gender. How does it really matter?
Yeah, that's a good and a hopeful thing. I think I get that. I think there's a lot of investment into these categories, often a lot of cleaning, but it can simply be letting go of and go to a different, more peaceful place.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think those were all the questions that we talked about at the beginning, and I really want to thank you for your time. On the website, on my website, you also find a video of you talking about this little analogy about chitta being light. So for those who are interested in that, I recommend that video. And then thank you for your time, Vilas. It was a
yeah,
pleasure
sure.
to,
And then I will be sharing this video to you.